And now I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Leadership and Development, Agile Troubleshooting Amid Upheaval. I'm going to hand things over to our featured presenter today. She is a Zig Ziglar certified speaker, Hanna Bauer. Hanna, you now have the floor.
Hello, hello. Are we good? Everybody can see?
Looks good. We just need to see your presentation, and that's it.
Got it. Oh. Here we go. Everybody can see that?
Perfect. Thank you. Looks good.
Well, welcome everyone. I am so excited about today's topic, and thank you, New Horizons, for hosting me and hosting you. And really has been a special call for everyone that is here this afternoon, well, morning for some of you, to really take a look at what the different demands that are going on us as leaders. And yes, I'm sure that by hearing the call today, you are a leader. And either you have been someone who's currently in a crisis, about to go into a crisis, a time of turmoil, or just got out of one. That's usually most of us. But before we get started, just going to tell you a little bit about myself. And my presenters mentioned my name is Hanna Bauer. And I have been doing leadership, by really being a part of servant leadership for the last 20 years. It's been a privilege to be able to serve not only at the local, state, and national levels, but also to be able to create and help other people create the environments that they look at doing to be able to deliver even more leaders. And that's really what I want to talk about today, because one of the main things that a leader does, of course, is they lead. We come up with solutions. We're the ones that when we're given lemons, create lemonade. When we're given oranges, we make orange juice. When we're given almonds, we make almond milk. Yes, we do, actually. As leaders, we find solutions. And that has been the absolute pinnacle of what it is that we need right now. And one of the reasons I believe you are here today. I have been certified in DISC, in the John Maxwell team, and also the Zig Ziglar as well, to be able to help teams with motivation, inspiration, and really it's a work from within, because as a leader, the first one that you have to lead is yourself. I live in the Atlanta area with my husband and 5 children. That on its own could be turmoil every day, but we're doing awesome. And also our cat and pet chinchilla, for those of you that are interested in chinchillas, a very sweet, sweet animal, endangered species, and really been having a privilege to just be a part of their little world. But it's a little bit about me. Without further ado, really want to get started in the time frame that we have to discuss what it is that you are here for. And let me start with encouraging you with the different things that are going on right now, is that a person with a clear purpose will make progress, even in the toughest roads. A person with no purpose will make no progress, even in the smoothest of road. So be encouraged today that whatever bumps you may think are coming, delays, shifts, perhaps a new change, a whole new transition, you are a person of purpose. And it is during this time that you can make progress. Most of the greatest progress that we've seen has happened during those times where the pressure is applied. If we see in the Great Depression, we see a lot of new innovation that came from that. And right now, even before the current pandemic, even before the things that were going on, there were shifts. I'm actually a result of that. My industry started with a shift back in the 2008, 2010. And that is where a lot of the skills that I now am able to help with others, with other industries and other companies, came out of that. So my hope today is through this webinar that you will be able to troubleshoot in real time. What does that look like? What does that environment set up? To be able to gain and maintain perspective. When we have things coming at us all the time, we gotta see what is it that we are being called to do at that moment. To be able to leverage the analysis competencies. What do I need to know? And how do I use what I do have? And to be able to promote and enable focus. As a leader, that is what you do. And I will show you at the end the great privilege that we have. So Upheaval. What is that? Upheaval, and it is going through sudden change. Just bam. You don't expect it. It's violent. It can be a disruption. It could be something that you saw coming, but didn't even realize the magnitude that it could have taken. So what we're discussing today is, what do we do when this, what seems huge storm, hits us? Perhaps you do feel like that little boat where you're just sucking everything that's going from around you and about to just go down. Perhaps it's the industry, perhaps it's the business, perhaps it's your team. My industry was the educational publishing. And back in 2008, 2009, we had a huge storm that came at us because of the change of standards, the budget changes in the government. Of course, we know about the housing crisis, which affect directly the budgets and the money that was available to that. And of course, the emerging technology. New demands, what our marketplace needed. New demands were a place where people didn't even know, the customer didn't know what it is that they wanted, but they knew they wanted and needed something different. So in the midst of all that, going from a very traditional print publishing house, taking it to the digital environment, I had the opportunity to be able to explore with new technologies like artificial intelligence and augmented reality, virtual reality as well, to be able to experience and simulate. And those are some of the things that us as an industry were challenged to be able to bring to the learners today, which now 12 years later, we're using radically, and it's changing the way that we learn. Just like that in the industry, we had to see the framework of learning. And those are some of the things that I want to discuss with you today, to be able to explore, what does that look like? Perhaps your crisis is not a whole shift in the education or the business. Maybe it's a personal thing. Maybe it's a health, it's a transition, it's a career, even a new opportunity, and things are coming at you left and right. Having to do better, more, and faster, even with less. One thing for sure that crisis have taught me is that not only is what the solution is needed at hand, but it also tends to bring up to the surface those things that may not have been dealt with in the past. Some of the things may be things that you kick yourself over. Why didn't I do something when I realized this was going on? Now I have less time, less money, less resources to be able to do so. It's okay. We don't fail, we learn. We'll learn from our mistakes, from our failures, from points of troubleshooting, and that's how we've been able to improve. You all know about troubleshooting. Every time there's a defect that comes, it's an opportunity to improve it. Every time a sudden disruption, you have to figure out new ways to make everything connect. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to look at how do we connect. But let me again encourage you one more time, is what the end looks like. And in any crisis, in any time of turmoil, as a leader, one of the main things you have to keep in mind is that there is always a solution. And this storm will not last forever. So what are the rules of engagement in this upheaval when suddenly things seem to be going left and right, coming at you, not only with the demands of the workplace, but with what you have to learn, with the different platforms and the different customer requirements and the ways that we do processes and the way that we manage teams, the way that we recruit teams? Well, you got to look at the big picture. Make sure, as a leader, you are looking at the big picture. Again, there's always an answer. And know that inside of that, there is an opportunity, huge opportunity. And whatever you do, stay true to your core. It may look different. It may be delivered in a different way, but your core is your core. So when coming in the different times of turmoil and trial, and here you are navigating your team, I want to show you a framework that is going to help you during these times to be able to take your team, to help them navigate to focus, and really create a new culture. So the number one thing in times of turmoil, in times of crisis, is keeping the main thing the main thing. Because that sounds. What are we talking about? What is the problem? What is the pain? What is going on? So as a leader, as we're looking at all this, again, through the leadership lens, I know you all are subject matter experts and you know how to do your skill. You know how to do the different things that are required right now, but this is now requiring another level. And you got to see beyond what you're currently encountering. So what are we talking about? As you create your teams, as you are looking at the different problems, the different opportunities that are coming at you, is defining what it is that we're talking about. Define the problem. In this stage, you want to build an understanding of the needs of the customers of the process. What do I mean by customers of the process? It means the person on the receiving end. I'm not talking about solely the end receiver. I'm talking about the next person that receives whatever it is that you're handing off. So what are those requirements? Have those requirements changed? Because when we're looking at the big picture, it's easy to just get caught on, well, what does the end completely look like? Which we do need to see. But we also now are going to bring it here in the number one, having already being aware of what the end looks like. In our number one stage is, what does my immediate customers' demands, have they changed? What do they look like? Build an understanding of that. And now you outline the focus of your team. You not only outline the focus of the team, because now you're building the framework, but you outline the focus also for your leadership, for those champions that are going to help you get through this. I cannot emphasize enough that during this time, as we're defining the problem first, is communicate, communicate, and communicate. There's no such thing in over-communication and effective communication. Keep your team informed. Again, in times of crisis, that's what people are wanting. Well, they just want to get information. We'll provide them with the right information. Provide them with information that they need to start creating the next step. So right now, all we're doing in step number one, and I know here my leaders, we just want solutions. And we're trying to not only just create solutions in our business, but we're also pushing solutions down. That's not what we're doing. In times of crisis, we're slowing it down to take a look at what the problem is. We're defining the problem. At this stage, we're not looking at solutions. So you use this opportunity for discovery. And in this discovery phase, you will see, again, this adversity is having a mirror. Okay, where are we? What is the brutal reality of where we're at? It can be scary. It can be somewhat threatening. But this is, again, where your leadership skills come into place to be able to communicate. Now, this doesn't mean you're just dumping out information or venting or just talking about the problems. That's not what we're doing here. In the times of crisis, you do have to put a framework of what that problem is. Now, once you have that, then you have tunnel vision, and that's what you will need, tunnel vision for your team. So not only what is the problem, right? That's the first thing. But the second part is, well, what is the current process? Do we have anything that is being affected by this? How big is this problem? It's really easy that in times of turmoil and change and disruption to think, well, the sky is falling, right? That's not what we're looking at. Again, as a leader, what you're bringing here is, what do we need to do in order to be able to see what is the current performance? What are the measurements in place for us to be able to see what it is that we need to be looking at? What is the problem? And what is the magnitude? Now, again, as I mentioned to you earlier, crises have a tendency to bring to surface things that may have been hidden from the past, right? Memories, triggers, and I'm talking about processes, but it could also be triggers or memories of maybe perhaps past leadership. And we hear that a lot too, right? We inherit the problems of previous leadership. So here we go. As you're navigating through this part, it is not looking at a blame game in any sort of way, but we really want to get a picture of what it is that the process is current, what it is that the process is telling us, the current process, and how big is this problem. What we need is some perspective. So in the perspective stage here, in the second part, we're gathering. Again, no solutions yet, okay? I know my leaders are dying to be going implementer. Hey, come on, let's just get some solutions. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Right now, again, a framework, perspective. You're gathering information about the data that you're already collecting. You're gathering information about the data that you're missing. You are gathering what the process is telling you. Most importantly, again, you're talking to the customer I was telling you about. The customer that receives your current process. Who is the person that's receiving? Who's feeling the pain here? You're going to get all kinds of advice. That's not what we're looking for right now. We want to know who cares really that this is breaking down or not. So you're gathering information of the customers, and you then are determining what is the current performance or baseline. Where are we? Where are we going? All of this gathering, again, is to put it into perspective. And again, perspective against what? Perspective against your mission. Perspective against the places where you may have had a strategic plan. Is my strategic plan just out the window because we had a storm come? It is easy for us to get caught in that. It is easy for fear in times of crisis to speak way louder than anything else. This is the opportunity that you have to not only deal with that fear, but really put it into perspective. Starve your fears. Feed your faith. Whatever you focus on grows. Again, whatever you focus on grows. As a leader, you are starving your fear. How do you do that? By providing perspective. And you feed your faith. Faith in what? Faith in your system. Faith in your course. Faith on your purpose. Faith on your purpose as a leader. Because it is challenging when things not only in the marketplace are changing, but personally, perhaps finances are being affected. Health might be affected. Loved ones may be affected. How do we keep it all into perspective? You starve your fears and you feed your faith. You have to feed those areas already in the process, those areas in the company that you know are working, starting with feeding your people. And again, this is where you're communicating and communicate again and communicate again. No other area of you as a leader will be challenged more than right now in your communication skills. Great news is that leaders are not just some great leaders and some not. Leaders are developed. So you are in the right place. And again, which is why I thank you that you're here, because it is our turn as leaders. That's a great opportunity that we have to be able to rise, to be able to bring perspective, because that's what our world needs, our families need. We bring perspective, we put it in the framework, and then we go on to the next step, which is make sure that you are reflecting, not reacting. So first, we became aware, right? Where it says like, hey, we were defining what is the problem. Second, we were gathering. We're just gathering. Again, no solutions at this point. And this is where I lose a lot of people, from organizations to people like, we just got to do something. And yes, we can be busy doing all kinds of solutions and trying again and trying again, trying again. And it could be very costly. Not to say that because if we follow this, we're going to get it right the first time. but we're going to get it as right as we can in a time of turmoil and time of crisis. So if we're talking about what is it after I have gathered, we reflect on that. Again, no solutions quite yet. We're going to get there. You leverage what you have. You must brainstorm at this point. What are the potential root causes? In the second stage, we were asking the who, what, when, where, why, how. In this stage, we're asking why. And we're asking why again. And we're going to ask why again. And why again. Did you want more guess on the next question? Why? 5 times your why. We're seeking where it is that the problem is stemming from. We're feeling the pain. And that is one of the areas that us as leaders, as teams get cut up, right? We just want something now to just stop the pain. And yes, there is value in providing some sort of pain relief, but we can't get stuck there. And if we're really going to make a lasting change and have something that's going to anchor us and not just blow us with the rest of the storm, we're going to have to get to the root of it. And as much as the crisis does, again, a lot of the families of problems that you will have, you will see that they stem from the same place. So if you just are patient a little bit and take a little bit of time right here, it is possible that by you narrowing it down, you can go ahead and take care of a whole family of problems and open a whole new opportunity for you. Most of all, your team is empowered here because we start digging, we start asking, and suddenly as we start asking these questions, there's also value created in that. And in times of crisis, people want to know they're being heard. People want to know that there's going to be a solution. We don't know quite yet, but we are working on it. So as we're brainstorming right here, we're brainstorming again on what? The problem. No solutions yet. We are developing then a hypothesis of the problem. What could this be? After having gathered this information and brainstorming what could be causing this pain, going a little deeper, then we develop a hypothesis of what is going on. And then be intentional. Start being intentional. This is a great opportunity for you as a leader in the middle of crisis to start feeding that culture of getting answers and giving those comments, giving that feedback, because that's what you're going to need. In order to be agile, you have to be able to respond. That's the whole purpose of it. I get an answer here. I have my team. We're going to have to make a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. May go straight. You're going to have to be able to answer like this. When you don't have a framework in a place where people feel, again, safe, secure, and that the relationship, the communication is working, you will not have the ability to move this fast. And that's why it's such great opportunities with the meetings, like having the fast touch points, with the Scrum meetings, with the shorter, more effective, very dynamic points of where we're discussing, not, again, we're not venting on the problem, but we're, again, defining what the problem is. And you leverage it. You leverage it for what? Because this whole time, you as a leader, you're leading this conversation, but not only that, you're creating a report and you're creating a culture. And without even realizing, and I'm going to change the culture organically is being changed because that's what you're doing. That's the framework that you're building. So when you are intentional about this implementation, what is it going to lead? It's going to lead to our next step, which I know is what you all have been waiting for, implementing solutions. What does this look like? I know my technology departments are excellent, perfect examples for the rest of the industries on how we implement solutions. We brainstorm. We start looking at this point, right? Brainstorming on the solutions to what? the root cause that we were looking at, to the hypothesis that we had created. And then we pilot, right? The beta testing, just a little bit. Let's see. And who are we talking to? Our customer of what? The process. The customer of who gets the solution. The customer that's immediately right here. And then we start looking at what our end customer is going to be receiving. Again, this is all about adding value. This is all about, now that we have brainstorm solutions and we're looking at the solutions, is to then be able to pilot them. Again, creating that atmosphere, that excitement of, could this work? Yes, it will. Because what? You're an implementer. You are a leader. And not only that, you know how to collect the data. You have already been talking. You are very thorough on the problem, and realize that we went through 3 stages before, where we're still dealing with the problem before we got to this one. What is key here, again, throughout the whole part, is communication. But it's that rapport. In the communication part, and in times of crisis, the rapport that you build is just as important as the rapport that you build when it's not a time of turmoil. Actually, you're going to be able to have you made enough deposits during times where it hasn't been like a storm. This is where you're going to be able to cash in on some of that. But remember, every time in this step, when you have gone through your awareness, when you're finding out what the problem is, when you have gone through the gathering and really valuing people and understanding their pain, when you are brainstorming and looking at, well, what could be the root? And then you're looking at the implementing part. You already have a team. You're already getting the buy-in of the team, because that's what you're going to need. This is the solution-focused buy-in. So when we're talking about how to really able to troubleshoot really quick in real time, is because you have built a culture. Even in a time of crisis, you're building a culture where they're solution-focused, because that's the perspective you're providing. You are providing perspective during this time of the storm. This is what's going to sustain you throughout the entire storm, throughout the disruption, throughout the emergence of your new solutions. And really, that is one of the things that adversity and crisis and really situations that are not our favorite to go through, is they show humility. And reality is a lot our humanity. And that is one thing that you will be sure that you're going to be able to do with your team. It will close that gap. A lot of times we're trying to see, like, okay, well, there's this ladder of who talks to whom, or what talks to what. A time of solution focus, a time that may have been maybe the catalyst was a crisis, really has a great opportunity to really close in that gap, because adversity has a tendency to do that. You think about that when they're first responders and the building's crumbling down. It's not a time to pull rank on anybody. The bonds that happen during those times go far beyond with what words can speak. We hear that about people that have gone through war together. Everything is really not a matter of their background, of what they look like, of how they speak, or their color, or where it is that they went to school at, or where they live. In times of adversity, and when we become solution focused, really our humility, but much more our humanity comes out. And this is yet another opportunity, as we're looking at from the leadership lens, is the ability that you will have to not only gather and give value to people by having them listen and come up with solutions and express this magnitude of the problem, but this is the time that we're humble enough to know that we don't have all the answers within ourselves. And we're going to have to speak. We're going to have to speak to our customers. We're going to have to speak to our dreams. We're going to have to speak to those things that they're not to existence yet, Because as leaders, that's what we do. That is part of the troubleshooting. What is the dream? What is that vision of the company that you're at? What is the vision of the department that you're in? What do you envision for the families that are in your team? What is it that you are envisioning at this moment that adversity and crisis may have brought up to the front, and we may not have the answers yet, but that's just one way. That's a stage. It's not a setback. It's a setup. And humility is at the foundation of it. So I ask you as leaders, as you are putting together the solutions, do not put this aside. The great opportunity in the humanity and the humility that you have to be able to really close those gaps that we are discussing so much are separating us. This is your chance as a leader, providing a culture that is solution focused in this framework to be able to change the lives of the people that are in your team and to be able to change the life of your customer, because they need you. They need your service. Again, from one of my great mentors, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Humility, adversity, closing that gap has a great ability to be able to do so much for the influence that you have. Again, leadership is influence. Not much more, not much less. As my other mentor, John Maxwell, says, we're talking about influence. And as we're looking at it through the leadership lens, we're really talking about your level of influence. And where do people look at? Where do we see? Where do we go to in times when it seems like the floor has just gone from under us? They were looking to you. That's why you're here, because you're feeling that call. So we have gone through defining the problem, right? Stage one. We have then gone to gathering information about what? The problem, not solutions. Then we have gone into the brainstorming part, right? Where we're brainstorming what? The problem, hypothesis. Then we went through four where we're starting to brainstorm the solutions and implement bit by bit. So what is left, right? Number 5, promote and enable focus. Because as a leader, that's what you do. This is one of the greatest steps, and a step that is mostly forgotten by all. It doesn't matter where in their leadership are at, how big their company is, how small their company is. This is one that's kind of like left behind. But number 5 is really what's going to let you go into that point of innovation, because it's going to take care of this. You're going to focus, now that you have gone through those 4 stages, to focus on creating a plan, right? What does the plan have? Plan has instructions. Instructions for what? What to do with this problem. What were the solutions that you came up with? What was that solution that you're testing? Has that plan. But 2, it monitors that plan. Monitors for what? It measures. It has to measure success, because in that framework, that's what you're doing. Not only are you measuring, we're measuring the problem by collecting all this data, but you gotta set it up and measure success. Because in this number 5, as you are implementing the solutions, if there's a dip in the performance, you're going to be able to, again, tweak and provide direction to your people on where it is that they're supposed to go. You're not giving it to them blind again. You have already given them instructions. Why? So that you can also develop a response plan. Again, develop a response plan. You are focusing in. At first, we had the tunnel vision of what the problem is. Now we have a guide for our team, for our company, for our businesses, for things that there's a historical record of how to deal with this problem. Not only is it historical, but it's active right now. And we develop a response plan in case there's a dip. This is the next solution we're looking at. Again, I can't emphasize to you how important this number 5 is, because why? Why do we need number 5? Because in leaders, and when we're troubleshooting, right? We're troubleshooting, we're looking at the crisis, what's going on. It's not enough that it's just you. Because really what we want to do is what you all know, hand off. We're handing off the solution. We're handing off the process. And this handoff, and with having done number 5 correctly, not only have you provided a framework of solution, but you have also empowered a new leader. You have empowered a new team, because that's exactly what it's going to take. You cannot do this alone. In times of turmoil, it's not just a one person. You're going to need to empower your team. This is how you empower your team. You hand off, because where are you going to go? To the next storm. That's what we do. We see the next storm, that's our goal. We see a problem, that's where we know we need to be. That's what leaders do. Leaders lead. Leaders reproduce. Doing number 5 correctly, you will reproduce yourself. You will multiply your efforts. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's an African proverb. But not only this, sometimes crisis, yeah, I've been there. When you look at the ocean, when you look at the things, when you look at the fears, sometimes you just want to bury your head in the ground. Or let me just find a little corner. Or can I switch my zip code and nobody find me? But you're not alone. Leaders are not alone. If you're alone, you're not leading. Utilize the greatest asset that you have, and that's your people. That's your team. They're depending on you. This is what you do. This is why you're here. That's why you're interested in the Center for Leadership. That's why you're interested in growing. Because you know that you don't even need a definite, yeah, we can get through this. You just need a maybe. You just need a little glimpse. And with that, that's your goal. And possible solutions, that's where you're at. That is your environment. That's where you thrive. Why? Because you're a leader. Humanity has gotten great progress from this. We see industries disrupted, and we evolve, we grow. That pressure that is applied is really what gets us to the next step. So utilize this time. Do not waste this opportunity. And I know, as overwhelming as it may seem, it's not when you are operating in a framework and you are filtering it and you have your team. Build people, and people build the business. That is very true. And it reigns true in times of crisis. Utilize this time to create a culture. It is a culture. It is a culture of continuing to go on. It's a culture of continuing to improve. It is a culture to continue to challenge the best parts of you, and to even challenge those what we think is the worst part of us. Because I'm telling you, in that whole turmoil, amazing, great discoveries happen. This is your time to grow. This is your time to mature. And the best thing is to not forget that in this time, you are able to even reproduce more. That is part of my story too. Not only will we be able to change and become more efficient, going from print to digital, but also we were able to discover new ways of doing hybrid, new ways to explore, new ways to learn, and even provide a foundation for being able to even build more than that. Look at the different things that are happening now. You don't know where this opportunity will take you, your business, your team, your leadership. It is an exciting time. And with that, I want to tell you a little bit more about what New Horizons does. And we have been doing live training since 2001. Not only that, but we have many different titles that can help you. Again, a leader is not grown. A leader is developed. Use this time to develop yourself. I always tell my team, don't send people to class, send your problem to class. But we need our solutions. So in these opportunities, when we do the live trainings here with New Horizons, we're able to take real-time courses. We're able to take on real-time situations and create the brainstorming with other people, with other peers in our industries, or other people that maybe have faced the same situation, the same position. So please make sure that you check out one of the courses. Not only that, but you can take your learning to the next level. If you want to even learn more about this part of what we discussed in times of crisis, there's some great classes that you can check right in our website. Becoming a transformational leader. Really take this opportunity not to just provide one solution or a band-aid or one, but really make it a movement of transformation. Or you can do a leading change in a complex world. We see all kinds of things happening. How do I get better? Because you do. This is your time to get better. This is your time to innovate. This is your time to do things, more things, perhaps even with less time. So leading in a complex world will be a great opportunity for you to learn about this. Leadership excellence for senior management. I know many of you may be new, but also we have veterans. And the reality is that in this time of new marketplaces, of what we have even started to refer to as a new normal, we're all having to learn. We're all having to innovate. And for our management that has been in existence, this is your time to shine. This is your opportunity. Don't forget to check out our class. And discovering your leadership voice. If you're just getting started, or perhaps you were just landed into leadership, that happened to me actually. I was kind of like that little fly in the wall that was just listening and listening. And then suddenly, when the crisis came, everybody ran out the door, and I stayed. And it took me to great places. So discover your leadership voice. See how that will happen even in times of crisis. And making the right decisions under pressure. Again, when olives are pressed, olive oil is a great thing. When you're given lemons, create lemonade. Pressure creates even greater things. And please, if you have your business, if you would like to be interested in coaching or even private events, we'll be more than glad to help you. But also check out our blogs. We have some great presenters coming up in the next few months, and I believe we also have some time for some questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Hannah. Please take a moment, type in your questions in the question section of the GoToWebinar platform. We'll get to those in just a few minutes here. Just give people a chance to get those in. Just echoing what Hannah said, if you're interested in the material that was just presented on this webinar, or if you just really have any questions regarding what's available to you, please contact your local center for more information. You can log on to newhorizons.com and do a quick zip code search to find the center that's nearest you. And also just echoing, we do have a webinar schedule up to date, so please check that out as well when you're on newhorizons.com. Hopefully we can see a few more of you on several different sessions. We have a lot of different topics that we cover throughout the year on a month-to-month basis. And just a quick reminder, this session is being recorded, so be on the lookout for a recording link later today. All right, we'll get to some questions here. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to type it into the chat. One question that did come up, Hannah, is what do you do when you know you need to spend time brainstorming the root cause and be intentional with reflection, but you're being asked by your senior executives or a senior team to move forward with a short-term solution that will eventually have to change?
Oh yes, that is something that happens all the time. So in different types of leadership, again, this goes back to your first stage. You have to have that communication with the leadership. And yes, we all just want the pain to go away. But it all depends on how much you want to pay, right? Everything has its cost. So you can either be busy, right, and do like a trial and error and come up with something that may or may not work, that may be lasting or not long lasting, or you can be strategic about it. And also not only the opportunity of solving this problem, and this is again a communication with your leadership, right? With the upper management or the business owners. But what is it going to be long lasting? I can tell you, having worked in a small business, for us, yes, of course, we would love to work on that problem, but then we also have to make sure that everybody's getting paid. So I've always told people that when you're trying to run a small business, it's like trying to change your tire on a car while going 60 miles down the highway. It's very hard. However, if you don't, you're gonna just drive off the cliff. It's gonna explode. Same thing happens with leadership. That is about a communication, and it's going to take that. It's going to take you to a new level of communication, because again, a crisis will bring up not only the different things that need to be troubleshooted right now, but things from the past may also surface. Some things that were left unattended, and a lot of times that's what happens. It may not even be a new problem. It may be just a whole bunch of the previous problems that now come, and we're at a point critical where it just, the organization cannot withstand it anymore. So again, this is a communication. This is an opportunity for coaching, and actually coaching your leadership on the problem. I said, like, you need the coaching on, to get through the problem, but you also need to coach the problem to your leadership, because they may understand. But yes, it is a challenge, and yes, it is something that has to be put into the plan as you navigate it.
Great. Just a follow-up to that question in general. I mean, it's great that the different communication tactics and the need for communication is there. How do you approach coaching leadership?
Coaching leadership. Coaching, like if me as a subordinate coaching leadership on a problem?
Yes.
Okay. They want data. That's the language of leadership, because they want to know is the data. Did you do your homework? And you have to show a track record of what it is. That's why so much the gathering step is going to help you, because everybody at first is like, oh yeah, we want a solution to this problem. We want that. And then the other steps may not want to go through. So the gathering part is really going to be your toolbox to be able to now go to leadership and be able to coach them in that aspect, as far as the aspect of the issue of what is going on. And that is the language of your decision makers, of your leaders. They want to see the data. They want to see the track record. They may not necessarily be feeling the pain because they're not the customer of the process. They may be feeling the pain perhaps in revenue. So you have to learn, what is it that, again, the customer cares about. And this is a conversation, yes, again, in communication, on what is it that the leadership cares about. I tell you, number one, coming to talk to and train many CEOs in your C-level suites, and even the immediate managers, they need numbers, they need data, and you need to be able to express what this data is saying.
Great. No, that's really good feedback. But, and oftentimes, sometimes even with all the data that is right in front of you and that's available, and it makes sense when you're presenting that problem, at what point do you have to say the senior leadership doesn't really care for the data that you've presented, or see that the data is relevant or valid? Do you just have to go back to the drawing board and start again? And I guess in the 5 steps, and trying to make sure that you come to a resolution for the problem that's at hand.
Sure, absolutely. You have to define again, and that's what goes back to perhaps the problem was not defined correctly to begin with. So it goes back to the number one is, and that is where the communication again with the leadership, are we looking at keeping things first? What are we looking at? Are we looking at the same thing? So yes, if you bring in the data and they see irrelevant, perhaps they're not seeing the same problem, or immediately, again, sometimes a lot what you're fighting is people want to implement. a lot of your leaders, and that's why my warning, my leaders, you have to take the time before you implement. Because again, it's not just a simple implementing, let me just change the process. There's your team involved. There's training involved. There's buying involved. And then there's what does this really mean for the ones who are receiving this? So in talking to leadership, you do have to, again, define and refine the problem. You're looking at the structure. What does this problem look like? And as you're bringing the gathering of the evidence, again, communication, are we looking at the same thing? And once the solution, it's time for the solution part. Again, if we have agreed on the hypothesis, again, though it's a hypothesis, do we have the freedom to be able to try these different solutions? And again, the solutions are also going to be compared to the cost. What is the investment in time for the company, for the leaders? What is going to be the investment on the money, on the training? What is it going to be? Perhaps there's some things that we need to let go. There's some things that there might be new opportunities. Hey, there might be an adjacent market. So you're also not only talking about the problem, but you're also, as somebody who is in the midst of that, is you're also bringing vision to the opportunity, because this may open us up to greater markets.
Great. No, that's really good feedback. I guess another thought and a question is, would, sometimes when problems and issues arise, most are either very reactionary, or you can take the steps to be proactive. Would you say that this path, the 5-step path that you've laid out, can be applicable to both? I mean, when someone's really reactionary, it's a very short term and you want to get it done quick, but this is a very thoughtful process. How would we apply that in more of a reactionary versus a proactive scenario or problem?
Well, actually, this is a tactic I've used in the midst of crisis, because you really can't be so proactive. A lot of the stuff, you don't become aware of it until the pain is so much, so you are reacting. Because the pain is so much, I usually don't have to look for problems. Problems have a great way to showing themselves to me, like, hey, I'm right here. They kind of punch in the face. So this is not about, oh, these are just best practices. It's like, okay, I just got punched.
Right.
What do I do? Even in the punching, you have to reflect. If you avoid the reflection, you're going to get punched again. And you might get punched so much, you may not get up. So that's why it is, you have to, and this is a training part. This is where you have to train. This is where, this is not just a simplistic. It is simple in what we need to do, because we don't want to react at any point, react as leaders. We want to be able to respond and want to be able to reflect, because again, it's not just about us. It's about our team. It's about the people that we serve, and it's about where we're wanting to go. It's about that vision. What is that vision saying? So it is a matter of training. And again, we don't have to look very far for problems to be right there. They usually, they make themselves very evident. So this process is in the midst of it, but this is going to help you put a framework to it.
Wonderful. Thank you for that great feedback. That seems to be all the questions that we have for today. We're ending right on time here with a few minutes to spare, but I wanted to thank you, Hanna, for joining and also speaking on behalf of New Horizons. And for everyone who joined our webinar today, thank you again. Hopefully we see you on another one of our sessions in the upcoming weeks. With that being said, have a great day, everyone. The webinar is done and you may now log off.
Thank you.
Thank you.